I'd like to welcome you to today's session hosted by Learning.com entitled, Are Your Students Tech Strong? Equitably and Easily Meeting the K-8 TEKS Mandate. We are thrilled that you're here with us today. We've got a packed hour ahead of us, and so I hope that you have something to take notes on and that you're ready to really gain some knowledge during our time together this afternoon. My name is Sherry Tomlinson, and I'm a Customer Success Manager in East Texas. So I work with all the mid to large size districts in Region 10, Region 11, all the way through East Texas and down through Houston and Galveston. I'd love to introduce the rest of my team that's here today as well from Learning.com, because you may see them in and out at moments. Rachel Minton is my counterpart on the west side of Texas. And then Dan Bushnell is my other counterpart who covers the rest of, or really I should say all of Texas, more of our small districts and our mid-sized districts. So together our role, folks, is when you partner with Learning.com, you get partnered with a Customer Success Manager. And our job is to make sure that your teachers, your students have everything they need to be successful with our program. Also, not on the line today, but a very important part of our Texas team is Jim Sidek. Some of you may have met Jim. Jim is our Regional Partnership Manager, and his role is really working with schools that are interested in being a part of the Learning.com family. So if that's you, Jim is the person that you probably have interfaced with already. And last but definitely not least, our Marketing Project Manager is joining us today, Abby Daniels. Abby's going to be monitoring our chat today. So if you have any questions, she's going to be addressing those and or saving some of them until later in our presentation, where she may want to share that out because it may be relevant to more than just you. So welcome from all of us. Let's go ahead and get started. What are we going to do today? What's happening in the next hour? Well, we're going to start by talking about digital literacy. We are going to discuss what it is, and we're going to discuss what it's not. So that's where we'll begin our journey today. Then we're going to talk about the challenges that you face, and we're going to share with you a potential solution for your challenges. And then we're going to spend hopefully the last half of our time together, that's our goal, interacting with our partner panel. We have 3 partner school districts that have joined us today, and we are thrilled about that. So we're going to let them share with you during our second half of our call today all the great things that are going on in their districts. I think you're going to very much enjoy that. And then we'll wrap it up with questions and answers. However, we're going to pause a couple of times prior to that for questions. Okay, so how do you ask questions? Let's take a look real quick. I never want to assume that everyone has interacted in the same learning environment that we're in today. So we're in a GoToWebinar, and you're going to have all the same features that you guys have from your virtual meeting environments, but a couple of them I wanted to point out to you. And I just thought about that. We need to get those handouts uploaded, and if they don't get uploaded by the end of our time together, we'll email those to you. But over on that right-hand side, you can open and collapse that window to get it out of your way if it gets in your way. We are all on mute today. We're expecting 40, 50 people today, so we thought it might be better to just keep everybody on mute for now. Over on the right-hand side, of course, you have the handouts, hopefully, that you'll be able to download. And then when you ask questions, you're going to put it in that questions area. Submit it. It's not really a chat feature like many of our meeting environments. You'll only see your question, but you will get an answer back from Abby, or like I said, she's going to save it for a little bit later during our presentation. So play around with that. Hopefully that makes sense to you, and you'll be able to be successful in this webinar environment. All righty. So how does your district define digital literacy? Let's start right there. If you would like to type it into the chat, that'd be awesome. If you want to just think about it, that's perfectly fine too. But I think that's an important question to ask. During these days when we've realized this past year how important technology is in our districts and how important digital literacy is to our students. So how does your district define digital literacy? You know, I think we all can agree, if we think about it, that the idea that today's students are born with digital proficiency is a myth. We hear it, we still hear it, but it's really a myth. We often say they can swipe, but can they type, right? They can use their tablets and their mama's cell phone and all the different devices available to them at a very, very young age. And they can swipe, but can they really do something with that? Can they type? They can use their cell phones and their tablets, but can they create something with them? They can play games, but can they create a game? Do they know how games are created? All of that, the not just consuming, but the actual doing, is part of that digital literacy that's so important. So let's take a look at what digital literacy is not. Digital literacy is not ensuring every student has a device. That's important, and some of us had to start there when the pandemic hit, didn't we? That we realized you can't teach students to be digitally literate if they don't have a device, but it doesn't stop there. That's really the foundation. Digital literacy is not learning how to use multimedia to research and investigate a specific topic only. Digital literacy is not having a computer lab in your school. Again, something we're all used to, and I think that's where technology kind of was born into our schools, is by way of computer labs many, many years ago. And so a lot of us still think that we have to have a computer lab, but that in and of itself is not really digital literacy. It's not scheduling technology as a special, separate class. It can be a part, right, of your digital literacy program, but it's not that alone. Digital literacy is not typing projects instead of writing them. I know we all have some teachers that they think, well, I do use technology. My students type their papers. It's a part of it, but it's not the whole thing. So all of it works together. Digital literacy is not using search engines to find information. And it's not using online media without the ability to judge whether it's accurate or true. All right, so if that's what it's not, then what is digital literacy? Well, it is understanding how to use digital tools effectively. Digital literacy is evaluating online sources for accuracy and trustworthiness. It is using online networks to enhance learning in the classroom. Digital literacy is also identifying the right digital tools to showcase students' work. It's producing creative digital artifacts to convey understanding. And it's leveraging technology in the problem-solving process. Lastly, digital literacy is using various multimedia types to enhance a lesson. Look at all the verbs and the action verbs throughout these descriptions of digital literacy. Digital literacy is more than just learning and doing, and it's even more than just understanding. But now we move into evaluating, identifying, producing, leveraging that technology. All of that is about digital literacy. So if I take both of those slides full of words and I just bring it down to one definition, to one sentence, I think this would be the best definition that really encompasses all of that. Digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, requiring both cognitive and technical skills. This is one of those slides that if I'm in a webinar, I'm grabbing my phone and I'm taking a picture of it real quick on my phone, just because that's a really good definition. I didn't make it up. We didn't make it up. There it is, cited at the bottom, because we know citations are important, right? All righty. We know that today's students are immersed in a digital ecosystem. It's an environment that demands technology skills in all aspects of life. Digital readiness is no longer a nice to have like it used to be many years back. But now, especially as a result of this last year, it is a need to have. It's a must have. So, knowing what digital literacy is and how important it is, let's take a little poll, because I would love to know how you're feeling about your district in regards to digital literacy. So if you'll give me a moment, I am going to launch a poll that will appear on your screen, and you can answer, you can check off all of these that apply to you. The question is, what are your district's biggest challenges in regards to digital literacy? Go ahead, answer that question for me, if you will, and click submit. Awesome, thank you. Answers are coming in. Wonderful. I'll give you about 30 more seconds to answer that poll question. What are your district's biggest challenges in regards to digital literacy? Okay, I think we have all of our results. So let's take a look and let's see what your answers were. All right, so I see that, wow, lack of instructional time for technology up there at the top. Yep, not surprised about that. I hear that from you guys. Taking students from using tech tools to creating tech tools to creating. Yes, good. I hear that as well. Equity, wow, that would have been higher, I have a feeling, if I had asked this question at this time last year, right? We've come a long way in making sure that our students have devices, and I'm so glad to see that that's a smaller number. That's great. No tech app teachers, that is a challenge, absolutely. And tech apps TEKS aligned curriculum. Oh, well, we've got a solution for that. Wonderful, thank you. That's very interesting, very good information. I appreciate you guys sharing that. That helps us to know what's happening in your heartbeats right now out in your school districts. All righty, so let's move along. I think I want to pause here for a minute, because what I really want to do is I want you to pat yourself on the back. I would love for you to physically take your hand and pat yourself on the back, because folks, you've come a long way since COVID hit at this time last year. This is the last time I'm going to talk about COVID, I think. You know, the news went haywire last year, our media outlets, when all the students went home and our students really weren't ready to learn from home in so many districts. And so I'm just showing here on the screen some of the things that were in our various mainstream media coverage outlets. Folks, you've come a long way. Now our students have devices for the most part, and that's due to y'all's hard work and implementation in your districts. So kudos to you. All right, I'm going to pause right there for just a minute and ask Abby before we move into this next section. Abby, are there any questions or anything that needs to be shared?
Hi, Sherry. Yes, I have been monitoring the chat here. Some folks answered some great questions about what digital literacy means to them. But I think we can probably go ahead and move into the rest of your presentation now.
Fabulous. All right. We shall do that then. Great. Thanks, Abby. Okay. So what can we do to help with this digital literacy elephant? Because it's a big elephant, folks. You know, I know when I saw the list of what digital literacy is not, it was a little disheartening to me. I was picturing, you know, the school that I taught in, and I was picturing schools I've been in, and I was like, God, everybody's working so hard to eat this elephant. But digital literacy in its purest form is so much. So what can we do to help you? And so I'd like to take the next few minutes just to introduce those of you who are not familiar with Learning.com. I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce you to our company and to our resource, because we do believe with all of our hearts that our resource is a fabulous solution to help you fill that gap that you need for curriculum resources, for ease of teacher use, for fun, engaging student lessons. We believe we've packaged that in Learning.com for you. And today on our session, we have some folks who are current partners of ours, and we also have some folks that aren't. And so that's why we're going to pause and just make sure that we're all on the same page about what Learning.com is before we jump over to our panelists, because they're probably going to bring it up in their statements. So Learning.com, for those of you who may not know us or may not know us well, we are a digital literacy company. Our passion is putting in the hands of students and teachers high quality curriculum that meets state and national standards for technology application skills. Okay. We are adopted in the state of Texas. So what that means is that we are the technology applications textbook. Much like you have a reading adoption or a math adoption or science adoption, etc. There was an adoption for tech apps, in case you didn't know. It's been quite a few years back now, and Learning.com was, we met all of the requirements to be an adopted resource. In fact, I think we're the only one on that list. We do our lessons that are put into the Texas bundle, they're available to every single one of you, are 100% Tech Apps TEKS aligned. So as you also likely know, we have Tech Apps technology applications, that's we shorten it, Tech Apps TEKS, that are required for all of the students in Texas, K-12. So just like we have reading requirements and we have math standards, there are Tech Apps standards. And so our Learning.com suite of curriculum meets 100% of those standards. So what's inside of this Texas bundle, this Texas adoption? We kind of put it in 3 categories just for it to be easy to understand. We have hundreds of lessons that cover technology basics. Now I'm going to pause here for a minute, because back on the other slide, I said in Texas, we're adopted at the K-8 level, and that is true. At that time, we only had K-8 curriculum. But now you're going to start seeing K-12 on some of these screens that I share, because we have, in the past year to 2 years, now have curriculum available for 9th through 12th grade. It's not on the adoption list because it wasn't there at that time, but we do have that curriculum available. So just in case any of you were going, but wait, she said K-8, that's why you're seeing K-12 now as well. So we have hundreds of lessons that cover technology basics, everything from computer fundamentals, and think about it, what we would teach a kindergartner in regards to computer fundamentals, we're going to teach how to use a mouse, right? We're going to teach pointer devices. We're going to teach parts of a computer. And guess what we're going to teach at the 8th grade level? We're going to teach cloud computing, and we're going to teach saving to the cloud. We're going to teach importing, inserting, yes, both media into a presentation. We're going to take them to those higher levels in computer fundamentals, and the same with all of the areas that we work through. We have an adaptive keyboarding course that is amazing. It never ends. Students go in, they type, they get their words per minute, they get their accuracy, and they're always trying to better themselves. Teachers get to look at a dashboard, see how their students are doing, see how their school is doing compared to the other schools in the district. See a lot of healthy competition going on in the adaptive keyboarding world. We also have lessons K-12 for online safety and digital citizenship, as well as internet usage and communications. You can see there by some of the screens that I've shared, you know, bright, engaging student interfaces. The lessons are, the students really enjoy interacting with our lessons. Another category of lesson types that you would have in your Texas bundle really cover software skills. We also call these business applications. These are the things that students would need to know to produce things, okay? First, the basics are how to use computers. This is now how to use them to be producers, not just consumers. So we're going to teach them all about word processing. But notice, I didn't say we're going to teach them how to do Google Docs. We're going to teach them how to do Microsoft Word or whatever other word processing environment there is out there. Because what we do is we teach students to use word processing in more of an agnostic environment. So when they learn it through Learning.com, they should be able to jump right over into whatever environment you use with your students, and they should be able to be successful. It doesn't matter what word processing environment we use, they all have the ability to change the font. And they all have the ability to change the size of the font and the color of the font and the paragraph. It just might look a little bit different in each environment. Likewise, we're going to teach our students spreadsheets and databases. Fabulous lessons on that. They learn to create graphs from spreadsheets. They're going to learn presentations. We have multimedia lessons available for your students, as well as visual mapping lessons. Now, it's important to note that all of these are introduced to students as it's developmentally appropriate. We're not going to teach kindergartners spreadsheets. So you can rest on that, okay? We're going to teach that. I think spreadsheet starts more about the 3rd grade level. And we're going to teach them the parts of the spreadsheet at that level. And then we're going to move up as it's developmentally appropriate. All righty. We also have a suite of lessons called inquiry. And I like to put PBL in parentheses because it is project-based learning. And what these lessons do is they take all of those other types of lessons that I just showed you, okay? And the teacher assigns an inquiry lesson, and the students are going to take a pre-assessment right off the bat when they engage with an inquiry lesson. And in that pre-assessment, it's going to assess their knowledge of the technology that's required to complete the project. All of the projects require technology to complete them. And anything that a student doesn't understand in regards to that technology for that project, they're going to be automatically assigned those lessons to complete before they complete the project. So it is a beautiful, beautiful suite of lessons. There are 8 inquiry lessons at every grade level. There are 2 in English language arts for every grade level. There are 2 math projects for every grade level. And then there's 1 science and 1 social studies project for each grade level. So this is a great way that our core classroom teachers can very easily integrate technology into their classroom, because all of these are also very tightly aligned to the core standards. So by grade level, teacher can identify when she's going to teach that project or he's going to teach that project. Very easily assign it during that time, and that can be a great resource to divert away from their normal, maybe textbook learning or whatever activities they're using. So that comes in this Texas bundle. And the last thing that comes in the Texas bundle, well, the last thing as far as curriculum goes, is a suite of lessons that really address advanced digital skills. And these are advanced digital skills like computational thinking, like coding, and cyber robotics. So right now you have computational, or you could have computational thinking lessons for every grade level. You have the beginning lessons of coding that introduce your students to coding by block coding, and then they move into text-based coding. So there's 2 different coding languages that are taught throughout our coding curriculum. One is called CoffeeScript, and that is within the CodeMonkey environment. CoffeeScript, your students can start learning that even as early as pre-K. The lessons start that early. And through block-based coding, they learn that language, which transpiles to Java. Get it? CoffeeScript Java. Then they also, our older students, beginning about middle school, going through high school, have the ability to learn Python. So we've got a whole different coding curriculum through Codesters that is implemented through our platform, and your students can engage in learning that language there as well. And then lastly, we have cyber robotics curriculum. So learning to code, but helping robots move. This came in really, really handy. Oh, I wasn't going to talk about last year again, but I'm going to mention it one more time. Our cyber robotics curriculum came in really handy when all the students got sent home. Because when all of the students got sent home last March, guess where the robotics kits went that our district spent a lot of money on? They went in the closets because we weren't going to send them home with students, right? Those are expensive. And so for how many months, the students that may have loved robotics weren't able to engage in those physical robots, but our cyber robotics course kept them engaged and kept them challenged and kept them going. So that particular course, I need to also time out and tell you, that particular course is not included in the Texas bundle. Again, it came along after that bundle was created. And so that is a separate piece from our normal, our Texas bundle curriculum. All righty, so that's the curriculum. Now, when I mentioned earlier hundreds, folks, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lessons in Learning.com where they're very video driven, students, very engaging to the students. They interact with the lesson, they get a score that goes back to the teacher's Learning.com gradebook. There are also hundreds of discussions. There are hundreds of application exercises. We want our students to create, use their knowledge to do things. That's what our application exercises are for. So all of that, all of these different types of lessons are included in this Texas Bundle Suite. And every single lesson has a lesson plan. So we're not going to throw a lesson out and not give you as educators the instruction pieces that you need to be able to be successful with that. And that's important when we get to things like coding. I had not coded before about 4 years ago, and we partnered with this coding product, and Sherry had to learn how to code. And I was a little fearful, but I read the first lesson plan. It taught me what in the world coding even was and why it was important, which is what you would teach to your students. And then it taught me in little bites, and then I loved it. So I think your students, and I think you would have that same experience if that's something that's a little scary to you. Now then, another piece. Now this isn't a curriculum, but this is a additional feature that's included in that bundle, is the ability for your district to create custom curriculum units, meaning you can take whatever you want out of all those hundreds of lessons. You can create, you may already have a scope and sequence or a sequence for your schools for technology applications, and you can plug in our lessons to your sequence. And in doing that, you could create your own custom units of technology curriculum using our curriculum, and even pulling in other third-party curriculum if you want to, or websites. And that curriculum can be available for your teachers to assign on their own, but you've already curated it. You curated it maybe at the district level. And so they don't have to go through this big library of instruction. You can package those curriculum units however you want to. You can see here, Channelview did it by 9 weeks and have done a great job. If I open that 9 weeks folder there on the screen for Channelview, I'll back up one slide here. For Channelview, you would see every grade level and what's assigned for that 9 weeks, okay? They did it at the district level. It's automatically assigned out to the campuses so that everybody's doing the same thing. Other districts, and I think I stole this one from Harmony Public Schools, I believe, yes, this is, they do some different things. And so their units are created a little differently. They wanted an online safety unit by itself, a technology applications unit by itself. They have a group of teachers that teach HTML. They wanted that by itself in a unit. So teachers didn't have to go hunt for it. Someone at the district level or at the district level called in, maybe in the summer, helped create those units. Here's an example of some of the units that Houston ISD has put together. They put together a lot over time. These are the only ones that are active right now for teachers that are shown for teachers. We did coding. We always do coding during Hour of Code a lot of times in districts. So we'll put that into a unit. You can put that into a unit for yourself. And then again, theirs are by grading cycles. All right, so you would have the ability to do that. Should you choose? You may not choose to do that, and that's okay. But I am finding, and I think Rachel would agree, that some of our very most successful implementations do take the time to do this just because it makes it easier on the teachers. But it's not a must-have. Learning.com partners with a lot of folks that you may have heard of, like Common Sense Education. We know they are the big man on campus. People love Common Sense Education. And so guess what? We do too. So we partnered with them this past year. And so all of the Common Sense Education digital citizenship lessons that are available through them on their platform are now available inside of Learning.com. CodeMonkey is the partner that we partnered with for pre-K through about 6th grade coding. That's the program that teaches your students to code in CoffeeScript. We also partner with Learnosity, who helps us to build our lessons. We partner with Codesters for our middle school and high school coding curriculum that teaches the students Python. And then we have cyber robotics. And I'm just going to leave it at that right now, but we have a cyber robotics partner that we work with as well. Students log into Learning.com. When they log in, oftentimes they'll see this right at the beginning when they do log in. If you have Clever or ClassLink, or I'm about to show you the other ones, the other SISs, then they can log in single sign-on through those SISs. Okay, but they log in, and here you go. Here are the other folks that we work with. Schoology, Clever, Canvas, ClassLink, Google for Education, D2L, and that Project Unicorn is something I had never heard of before, but that's very important because we've taken the pledge to increase secure access, privacy, and interoperability into our products. And that's important in today's digital age when we're dealing with our children, our students' information. Once students log in, they encounter their game board, if you will, or their lesson screen. And so each stone along the pathway represents a lesson, and each of these environments are different. This one, I believe, is the middle school environment. The K2 skin, if you will, is what we call it in the product world, the development world. The skin, it looks more K2 friendly. And then we have another skin for 3.5 and another one for 6.12, which is what you're seeing here. So engaging, folks, it is gamified. Students earn prizes, they earn stars, they have an arcade they get to visit, all of those great things that we compete with in the gaming world. We're pulling some into the educational aspects of our program. So that, my friends, is a little about Learning.com. Last thing to share with you is, as I mentioned earlier, you're always partnered with a customer success manager to support you, to help you with your implementation planning and in any way that you want. Many things you see here on the screen are some of the many ways that we support our customers. And this year we launched online learning modules. So we'll continue to do that. It was really exciting to us when one of our goals when school started back up after the pandemic was we knew that we would not have a lot of professional development time with our teachers. We knew that you guys were going to be learning LMSs. We knew that you were going to be learning all kinds of new things. And so there was a chance that we might not have a lot of face-to-face time with you. And likewise, the travel, right? We knew we wouldn't get to travel places and do that for those districts that preferred face-to-face training. So we did create a first module that teaches our teachers, it's a 2-hour module that teaches them all about Learning.com. And by the end of it, they are ready to get started. At the end of it, they get a certificate of completion that they can submit for PD credit if your district would approve that. It is beautiful. It is wonderful. And so we are updating that ongoing, and then we'll have new modules coming out in the future as well, in case on-demand training is something that you would prefer in your district. So we have on demand, we have live webinar and live online training, and then we have face-to-face training once we can all travel again and your districts will let us come back in. We can't wait for that day. And truly the last thing I'm going to say about Learning.com, it is accessible 24/7 for teachers, for students. So that again has been powerful during this past year, because it's been interesting to see some of our teachers who say, we don't have time for a technology class. Then assign it as homework. Your kids have devices, assign it. Boys and girls, tonight, I need for you to work on this lesson in Learning.com. Most of our lessons are about 15 to 20 minutes. Have them do it as homework. You can check the grade book the next day and see who did their homework. So it's really opened the doors to some more rich implementations than we've ever had before, being able to access it 24/7 and from home. Whew, I did a lot of talking, so I am going to stop now and ask Abby. Miss Abby, are there any questions before we go to our panelists?
Yeah, I think we should just go ahead and jump into our panelists. We want to make sure to give them some time to share.
All right, great. Then I am excited to introduce you folks to 3 partners of ours who have amazing implementations in Texas. We would put crowns on each of them if we could, but they have some great things to share with you, and we're going to queue up some questions for them to answer for you during this next segment. So Michelle Herod is the Educational Technology Specialist in Houston ISD, and Michelle, I'd love for you to turn on your camera and wave to folks. They're going to come online now so that you can interact with them. So Michelle, again, from Houston ISD, excited to have her today. Mr. Dennis Weisner is with us from Corpus Christi ISD. He is an instructional technology specialist there in the district that oversees the Learning.com implementation. And then Miss Jana Cash is also here with us today. She's from Vidor ISD. Down outside of Houston. She'll tell you that in a minute, but she's an instructional technologist there that has a super successful implementation as well. So what I'd like to do at this time is I'm going to ask each of them to introduce their district very quickly, and then we'll get into the questions. So Jana, if you wouldn't mind making sure you're off mute and then telling us a little bit about Vidor ISD.
Good afternoon. So glad to be with all of you this afternoon. I am Jana Cash, and I've been with Vidor ISD for 40 years. That's a 4 and a 0, and that's a long time. That's why this is here. But I've been with Learning.com since 2006. So I've really been able to watch the progression of technology infused in schools, like from the get-go. Our district houses 6 schools. We're a small 4A school, so we have 1 high school, 9-12. We have 1 junior high that houses 7-8. We have 1 middle school that houses 5-6, and then we have 3 elementary schools that house EE through 4th grade. Our implementation basically in our elementaries is geared more towards the laying of the foundation, and we use Easy Tech through their specials rotation. And then when they get to 5th grade, we've kind of dipped into a little specialized class. We call it Pirate Academy, to where our 5th graders take that class, and then our 6th graders have a dedicated class where they work with an inquiry model. And our 7th and 8th grade is more on a scheduled routine. We have a 4-semester layout to where they take their HAFTA classes that are provided in House Bill or made to take from the House Bill stuff. They do their 21st century skills in 7th grade and their tech apps in 8th grade. But we've also been able to expand our horizons there in the technology fields with intro to robotics and advanced robotics, and using some Python to do computer programming class. We have a TV class. And so we have these other things that have expanded out from our tech apps and tech literacy program because of some implementations that Learning.com put in place or has put in place over the years. I'm going to tell you some more about that in a little bit later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jana. I appreciate that. Great introduction. All right. Next, Dennis, how about you tell us about Corpus Christi ISD?
Good afternoon, everyone. A pleasure to be with you today. I'm coming all the way down from Corpus Christi, and it's a pleasure to be with you. And I just want to share with you how Corpus Christi ISD really has built a strong relationship with Learning.com within the last 5 years. I have been with the district. This is my 18th year with the district, 13 years as a teacher in the classroom. And so I can appreciate now at the district level the things that are being put in place as a result of Learning.com, and to see that growth really come throughout the grade levels. And so currently we have an adoption K-8 for all students, and we have coding available for 6 campuses for coding specifically. And we also have Learning.com integrated through curriculum instruction for K-8. We've done the work of building those specific units, as Ms. Tomlinson had mentioned earlier, that you can do for your district, in which we align the projects that Learn.com has put together into the IG, the instructional guide, so that there's not the excuse of making the time. It's already built into the instructional guide. Through 6 to 8, not all our middle schools, but a little over half our middle schools do have technology application courses available for students. In a couple of our larger middle schools, we actually have 2 tech app teachers, which has been a great success. And we look forward to expanding that to all our middle schools because we see the need. And I think after this year, everyone would agree that those digital literacy skills are much needed. We also have our librarians partnered into this whole digital literacy adventure. They recognize themselves as a big part of this plan. And for our elementary schools, when they have that library time, they actually are able to take care of our E-rate SIPA requirements that we have to do with regards to digital citizenship. And they do a phenomenal job by making sure that they go through the lessons that Learn.com has laid out, and even go further than that. And a lot of that has really provided a foundation for elementary, and it's so eye-opening, and we are so appreciative of what has occurred this last year with regard to what students already felt comfortable with as a result of Learning.com. And high school has even taken part in adaptive keyboarding, which is phenomenal. And I have to admit to you all that I'm guilty of also using adaptive keyboarding, because what it does is essentially find your weak areas and adjust as you go through the program, and makes you a more efficient and stronger keyboarder. And so we pretty much run the gamut when it comes to Learning.com, and definitely want to share some more with you here in our time together this afternoon.
Wow, fabulous, Dennis. Thank you so much. That is great. We'll look up how you're doing later in keyboarding. Okay, I'm kidding. We will not go look at how you're doing. But thank you for sharing about all the great things Corpus is doing. All righty, let's move on then to our third panelist, Miss Michelle Harrod. Michelle, tell us about your little district.
Yeah, I just come from a real tiny district. Hi, y'all. My name is Michelle Harrod, and I'm an educational technology specialist and in the academic instructional technology department here in HISD. And actually, I should say Houston ISD, because there are many H's in the state of Texas. But yeah, we happen to be the big one here and the 7th largest in the United States. We have nearly 280 schools. About 180 some odd of those are the elementary K-8s. And I am the liaison in the district to work with Learning.com, to work with Sherry in making sure that this curriculum resource is available to all those campuses. So yeah, it's a little bit of fun there. We really have been doing a lot of work with, especially just making sure that this is an equity maker. And that's something that really has, Truth and Light have just shown that out brilliantly this year, to see how that really has helped us see and grow how tech apps really is essential to the classroom. We've been able to do that more than ever with a lot of things that we'll be alluding to in some of the questions, you know, just the outreach to the teachers, how we're actually working with the students in the campuses, and then just our branding of working with technology applications here in the district. So, yep, we definitely have lots of partnerships. There are many departments in our district. I'm still learning some of what they are, and I've been in this district now for 24 years, 4 in this job, and we've been with Learning.com for at least 5-6 years, and Sherry can tell you the full amount for that one. But we'll get into a lot of that history as we delve into the questions. So I'll leave it to that.
Fabulous. Thanks, Michelle. All right, so let's move on then to our first question. And our first question is a pretty broad question that I really want to ask of all 3 of you. Why is digital literacy a priority in your district? There has to be a reason you guys have the positions you have. So Jana, would you start for us?
Sure. I'll start out by saying, and this came from one of our Puffy chairs, that when I asked her the question, what, as far as going through with initiatives and that thing and things like that, she just point blank said, virtual ain't going away. And when she said that, I'm thinking, okay, so we've got somebody on our side here, because after I think we all can figure that out really quickly after what happened last year. And even though we may be on the upswing and the uptick of getting lives back together to whatever that normal word means anymore, that now that we've taken a taste of virtual, that it's going to be here, and it's going to be something that's going to play into the much importance into education. The more we get, the further we go into it. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing I can say, is that virtual isn't going away, but that's not our main focus, if you will, just because virtual's here to stay, and virtual, we're going to do this virtual and that virtual. I think that digital literacy has become so important in our district from the standpoint that we're preparing kids. And we've all heard that statement, that we're preparing kids for things that we don't, for occupations and in areas of life that we don't even know exist, or that don't even exist yet, or don't even know about yet. And so I think that's important for us to keep in mind, that we can't just say, I think Sherry alluded to this a while ago, but we can't just say, oh yeah, our kids all have devices now, so they're digital people. Well, okay, they're digital people, all right. They're digital natives, of which I'm not, but we're all learning to get to that point. But just because they have a device cannot suffice for the literacy part of it. And so I think that's probably one of our highest reasons that we need to be able to say it is a priority in our district, because we want our kids to have success, not just now, but when they leave our, and go into post-secondary, whether it's into an educational institution or into the workforce or into the armed forces, we want to be able to know that they're going to be prepared to be successful, and not just, oh yeah, they'll be okay because they had a computer when they were in 7th grade, since they were in 7th grade or whatever. We want them to be prepared with the skills that are going to be expected of them to be able to be used when they get out there into their careers, and not just to be able to say, yeah, I'm #1 gamer in the state of Texas, even though it's really pretty cool, but to say that, yeah, I can use these, I can get this job that I've always dreamed of because I have the skills. I was given the foundation that I needed back when I was in school.
That is that's beautiful. Thank you, Jana. Very, very nice. I love that. Dennis, what about Corpus Christi? Why is digital literacy a priority in Corpus?
Digital literacy, let me first start by saying digital literacy is important for adults, right? Like right now, like if you're an adult and you are digitally illiterate, you're probably having a tough time. Maybe there are some occupations, there are occupations where, you know, maybe you're not so deep into the technology where you rely on it, but so much of our society now, right, in some shape or form relies on some type of technology. And I remember reading this article, and this is probably at least a year and a half ago, and it was an educational article that essentially said for teachers that you could be teaching in your classroom a student that will set foot on Mars. And I thought, oh my God, like how crazy is that, right? Like I have this impact of really, you know, helping to shape and support individuals who will do things that we can't even imagine. Now I can't with Mars, right? But other things that are just unfathomable. And so, you know, we are surrounded by technology, whether it's wearables, you know, our phones, our supercomputers, and our students, as they progress through time, technology is going to be even more ubiquitous, right? It will be literally everywhere. And so right now, really, I mean, minimally what we should be doing is digital literacy. It's like the minimum because it will only increase as far as, you know, what the expectations are for the skill sets that students will be expected to do. And this is a conversation that our office always has, is this has to be something not looked at as separate, right? Just as other content areas, these are skills, right? Communicating with people virtually, digitally, collaborating with people, not just in the classroom, which is fabulous, right? But how can we collaborate with people long distance? And how can we do that in a way that is respectful, right? How can we also critically think with those individuals from faraway places and in a virtual space? And obviously creativity plays a huge role by allowing students a wider audience. But for our district, and I think we're all on the same page for folks that are logged into this webinar, but also on the panel, we're all on the same page with regards to, we want to support our students so that they're lifelong learners, right? And so in every way we can, we want to set them up for success. Whatever post-high school looks like, we want them to be productive citizens. We want them to not just survive, but thrive in a digital environment that is connected to the entire world. And so I'll just stop right there, and we'll go ahead and take a look at some other things in a little while. But it is highly important for us as a district, and it is incredibly important that digital literacy is at the forefront of what we do, because that is indeed the future.
I love that, Dennis. And I love that you mentioned that adults too need to be digital literate. I know many of our teachers have encountered this year parents at home that weren't able to help their children. I've got 2 districts that have come to me and they want to use Learning.com with their parents, you know, just because their parents need the skills. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right, Dennis. Thank you very much. Michelle, what about in Houston? Why is digital literacy a priority in Houston?
Well, we discovered this as a tool, and that's something that I'm sure Jana and Dennis agree with me, is like, and I agree with you, Dennis, because the adults needed it. So my teaching colleagues, it was, wait, what? And how do I do this again? And where's the one pager on this? So we have this tool, and because all this technology is ubiquitous, we just are so comfortable that it's there for us until it's the only thing we have. So, but that's the thing, is we need to be understanding of what we have around us, and digital literacy is understanding the technology, but also being able to build critical thinking skills as to why is this here? Why is this being used the way it is? How can we use it in a new way? And that's that beautiful thing about our imaginations. Yeah, we were talking about Mars, but we, you know, what else is going to be created to make us communicate even further, to make us even dream even bigger? How do we just do incredible things that our students have yet to begin to dream of? But then also, how do we make our world a better place? And that's what digital literacy does, is it's the stepping stone to understanding and then questioning and being able to apply and utilize the world around us to be better. You know, and we're all, that sounds really grand and great. And then all of us here on the panel we're the baby steps to make that happen. Yes. So that's what we're, you know, it's exciting work. It's you know, the beginning work, but then I'm curious to see and excited to see how it's going to play out as we move along from this year and moving forward, because we can't go back. When we return to full strength, it's what are we doing to continue moving forward? And this is part of it.
Beautiful. Very nice. Thank you very much, Michelle. And we're all in this together, aren't we? I mean, I'm looking at the three of you and I'm thinking, you guys, I'm thinking of our company, I'm thinking of all the teachers that I've seen, you know, we're all learning this technology thing together, because as soon as we get one thing figured out, it's something else comes along, right? So, and it's actually kind of exciting. If you're a lifelong learner, you really get into this, and that's exciting. All right, let's move on to the next question. We have about 3 minutes, and I do want to just pause here for a minute. These folks have more to share with you, and we're almost to the 2:30 point. So we're going to keep going. If it's okay with our panelists, maybe another 15 minutes or so. Okay. Awesome, thank you. I should have asked you that first beforehand, but and so those of you that are also joining online, feel free to stay. If you have to drop off, everyone's going to get this recording sent to them. So never fear, you could go back and listen to it later, okay? But we welcome you to stay, we would love that. All right, second question, here we go. What are the key elements to a successful digital literacy initiative? So now we're talking key components. So Dennis and Corpus, what would you consider the key elements?
Well, for any new initiative, big change, really you have to convince the folks at the top, you know, why this is important, why this change is needed, and of course, you know, getting the funding to make that change, and how to make all that work. And so that's what we did here in Corpus Christi. We knew that this was such an important component for our students that we had that conversation with the deputy superintendent, you know, took the time to explain the why, right? And why this was needed now, why we had to take the time, the effort, and eventually the funding to make this happen. And so also inclusive of that core group in the very beginning, you have the director of curriculum instruction, also the instructional technology director, but also the technology director on the other side of it, to really have all these different lenses at the table and to look at the value that Learning.com can provide, and move forward with that. And so really convincing and showing the why. And once they understood how important this was and where we were going, where we wanted to go, there was a lot of buy-in. And that's kind of like with any new initiative. You know, there's always maybe a pushback from some folks, and that's initially because they don't know all the information yet. And having that time to explain that is the first hurdle to get that support from the top. The next thing we did was roll this out in kind of like in pilot groups, so to speak, or in groups, because we really didn't want to like overwhelm folks with a new change. That's typically what we do in our district, especially with any new initiatives. We want to have a pilot first, unless it's some type of mandate that is obviously there's not a lot of wiggle room. But with any kind of new initiative, we're wanting buy-in, we want pilot groups, we want people to get excited about it. So we rolled it out in small chunks to make it easier to learn. We started off with core curriculum, so we even had instructional specialists really to take a look at the inquiry projects to see how those could not only relate but bolster, right, the core content and how that could be integrated into instructional guides with technology. You know, bringing in librarians, as I mentioned earlier, for digital citizenship, and tech app teachers. It was obviously, that was an easy decision to make because all the curriculum was there and had been improved from TEA. We made everything user-friendly. We also made sure that we put in expectations, right? So once you have support from the top and we have an initiative and it becomes a directive, we want to make sure that, you know, we have certain expectations put in place. Deadlines are important, as you all know, but setting those expectations both verbal, written, and rinse and repeat, right? And so continue that communication. Assume nothing. Assume folks that you're rolling this out to don't know. They're not digitally literate. And so that's another thing that was helpful for us. And that's really kind of what our office does. We never want to, as my director always says, take a step back, because we have these lenses on with all our specialty. A lot of times we forget, you know, how it was as an entry-level individual with that particular content area. So we assume nothing, but we also provide training, not just in the beginning of school, front-loaded, but throughout the year, and have that tailored for specific teachers as needed. And
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, Dennis. I love that you created the buy-in, because by creating the buy-in at all those levels, you also created people that were going to be engaged with you in this race and cheerleaders for you. And so I think that's so important. That's great. Jana, Michelle, would either of you, do you have anything to add to what Dennis shared? Or
I would say I've never met Dennis before, but I had the same exact answers that he just talked about, and that's pretty cool. But I would just reiterate, probably the biggest thing for us was to have a solid curriculum, because I lived the hodgepodge, trying to pull this in for math and try to pull this in and try to just find everything anywhere. And back in the first, when we first started this back in basically 1998, there was nothing. And there was nothing for several years. And then along came Learning.com, and we thought heaven had come down to us, because it just had packaged it so beautifully, and it was easy. It was easy for the teachers, easy for us to implement. And so, yeah, thank you. Kudos to Learning.com on that part of it, it's giving us a solid curriculum.
great.
I'm going to chime in on that for Jana. Really, it's the simplicity. But also, yeah, Dennis, I know we're all on that same page of just like everyone, how do we just make sure everyone's, okay, you really understand why this is a big deal, right? And getting the buy-in from everybody, but also the buy-in from students. And I think the simplicity of everything in Learning.com, and then also just the tech apps themselves, that it's just as a logical progression. And if we actually utilize that and execute that within our grade levels, with fidelity, and show teachers it's not hard. It really is a simple thing to do. You just have to think of how to be purposeful and assign this lesson. And so, that's what it is. And I'll tell this one little story, because not only am I a district employee, I am a parent. And my fourth grader, she was a then third grader stuck at home, and she is now a lovely little introvert on her computer. And she discovered, I shoved her onto Learning.com, and she's like, okay, and totally finally learned homework keys. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like gorgeous. She's self-taught with this program. But then also one day she messaged me and she's like, hey mom, I'm a faster typer now because I did this, and thanks. And I'm like, wait, what? That was cool. So I've seen it from two venues. It is important to the community of getting something like technology applications to be promoted and successful in as an initiative.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. And I believe, I correct me if I'm misquoting, Michelle, but I think that your daughter also said, I can do all of my other schoolwork faster now because I can type faster, or something like that.
She did. I'm going to have to go back, and I know we screenshotted it, and I'm like, I've got to find that again, and I'll send that to you again, because I thought I did, and you know how that happens where you get an email you thought you sent, but yes.
Right.
It was validation from the kid perspective, and we needed that.
Yes. Yes, it was. Wonderful. Very good. Oh, thank you, people. So much for that. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to ask Jana to answer this question for us. Jana, could you share a key success that Vider ISD has experienced as it pertains to digital?
Yeah. So when we not just started out, because when we very first started out, it was pretty like, you do this lesson, you do this lesson, you do this lesson, and it was just all laid out like that. But within the program and the growth of the program, other opportunities have come up, and I'm just gonna, I want to, first of all, the Codios, the coding rodeos that the Learning.com puts on, and other avenues, has really expanded our program. And just a couple of years ago, we had a little fella named Alex, and it was so exciting to watch because he wanted his whole coding adventure documented. And so he had to get the teacher to video him, and he got through all 287, however many lessons it was, to do that little initiative that Learning.com put out. But he was so excited that he wouldn't even leave class. He asked for special permission if he could just stay in class to do these modules. And it was just fun to watch him come out of his shell and to become like a real human being that would actually talk to you and relate his experiences with you as he grew through this knowledge of doing the coding part. But one of our most favorite ones, and Rachel reminded me of this today, was one of our little students. We have, like I mentioned before, we have a variety of avenues that the students can sign up for as an elective. And this one little fella was in our Tech Lit teachers class 2 times a day. And so he got twice the time to do his challenges or his modules or his lessons or what he was needing to do. Well, it so happened that this student is a special ed student, and at the junior high level, he decided that he was a little bit ahead of the other students in his particular class, and he took it upon himself to get up from his desk and to go to the other students in the classroom, some of which were gifted and talented students, some which, just regular ed students or whatever. But he took it upon himself to get up and go around and to help the kids that were having trouble with their challenges. And that story right there just tells you that technology levels the playing field for our kids. And yeah, it was just a really special moment to see that kid get up and do things that he wouldn't normally get to do in just a regular class, just because of maybe his shortcomings or just what he wasn't gifted with as a person. But he found himself, and he was able to express himself through the technology and just become the superstar of the class for just like maybe one time in his life, maybe. So that was a pretty cool thing.
That is so heartwarming. I love that. And I love that you said technology is how do you say it? Levels the playing field?
Levels the playing field. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I hope Abby wrote that down. I love that. That's beautiful. All right. Well, we are quickly running out of the extra time that I told people we would hang on. But I have one more question that I want to ask. And Michelle, I'm going to point it to you. But if we could answer this really quickly, how does Houston ISD keep teachers up to date? Because, when you implement something in a huge district, really any district, getting the teacher buy-in is hard. And so how do you keep your teachers up to date in a district the size of Houston?
Well, networking is definitely key here. And so we have this year, which was great, is that we knew we needed to ensure that every campus was reached. So we do have an official technology contact on every campus, and some of them actually have the official title of campus instructional technologist, and that's an actual position at the schools. Some people are just the CIT designee. It's like, oh, hey, you're it. And you've seen how people wear many hats, and this one's kind of a big hat. It's a bit of a flouncy one, but then that's my role and my colleagues' roles to support those CITs and their designees at each campus. So Microsoft Teams has been huge for us to keep in contact with them. And so we do have teams so we can have monthly meetings and do that and give them pertinent information. But that's just one venue with one person per campus. We still have to reach everybody else. And so we are Twitter fiends, just not gonna lie. And also so just keeping up there in the Twitterverse on what's going on with us, what's going on with our trainings. Hey, look, we have these Tech Tuesdays that are coming on. And hey, look, have you noticed that this is what's going on? Have you seen this webinar? And that has been all going on Twitter. So, you know, we're now more into the business of retweeting the success of our students, which is great, but we still do tips and tricks and supporting technologies out there through our department account. And also our department website has been huge in just making sure, okay, we've had these trainings, let's curate them so you can come back to them as we do that. So having those venues be open for them to come find us and for them to be available as we continue out the year, those have been the biggest pieces for us. Yeah. So, and it's been helpful because you can find it and go back and research, find it on Google to see it when you need it.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you, Michelle. They are the most tweeting district I've ever followed, I will tell you. And what is your, I'm putting you on the spot here, your Twitter for your department?
Oh yeah, no, it's at HISD_inst, INST for instructional, _tech, TECH. So HISD_inst_tech, and that's how you find my department. And then we all get to say, hey everyone, I just tweeted, so can you just retweet it and, you know, or like it, or, you know, make sure other people see it. And that it's really been big because you don't realize how big an impression is on Twitter because someone gets it in their head. It's like that billboard. Oh, you see it again, you see it again, and it becomes part of your psyche, and then it's an accepted part of life. So people are looking for us to give them support or give them the news that's out there on what's great for what's next in technology, or how does it help your students, or how does it help the classroom. And that's our goal.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. I am so sorry that we've run out of time. Jana, Dennis, Michelle, y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I think we could go on for another hour, and maybe we just need to plan that one day because I think folks would really love to pick your brains even more. If you'll stay on for just a minute, Abby, do we have any questions for our panelists from any other folks?
I am checking the questions right now. It doesn't necessarily look like it, but I know that there's been lots of engagement and people showing engagement here. So I think we're set.
Okay, all right, good. Well, thank you again, Jana and Dennis and Michelle. Y'all are rock stars in our world, and we just appreciate you spending your time with us this afternoon. So thank you. All righty, for everyone else on the line, next steps, should you be interested, we would love for you to follow us on our social media areas, whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. If you are not yet a partner with us and that's something you want to explore, then I wanted to remind you that Jim Sidek would be the person that could help you envision what Learning.com might look like in your district. As well as Sherry, as well as Rachel, Dan, or myself, we certainly are available to help you as well.